November 2022, $32 billion disappeared in 72 hours. Not stolen in the night, not hidden offshore, just gone. And the people who let it happen weren't criminals. They were the smartest investors in the world. Sequoia Capital, SoftBank, Ontario Teachers' Pension, Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, Kevin O'Leary. These aren't naive retail investors. These are the people who are paid specifically to not get fooled. And yet every single one of them handed money to a 30-year-old in cargo shorts running a company with no CFO, no board oversight, and books that didn't balance. This video isn't about crypto. It's about something far more dangerous. How intelligent people convince themselves to ignore the truth. To understand how FTX fooled everyone, you need to understand the world it was born into. It's 2019. Crypto is a wild west. Bitcoin is hovering around $10,000. Every week there's a new exchange, a new token, a new promise of financial revolution. Most of them are scams and everyone knows it. But buried inside that chaos, there are real opportunities. And one young trader is exploiting every single one of them. Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, grew up in a Stanford academic household. His parents were law professors. He went to MIT. He studied physics. He read about effective altruism, a philosophy that says the most moral thing you can do is earn as much money as possible, then give it all away. This wasn't a disguise. He actually believed it. And that belief made him genuinely different from the average Wall Street operator, which made him paradoxically far more convincing. FTX grew at a speed that made people uncomfortable asking questions. In 2019, it launched. By 2021, it was valued at $25 billion. That's not growth. That's a magic trick. But no one looked behind the curtain because SBF was doing something none of his competitors were doing. He was making the right enemies and saying the right things. SBF built credibility on three fronts simultaneously. First, regulatory theater. While every other crypto exchange was fighting regulators, SBF was flying to Washington to testify in front of Congress, lobbying for stricter oversight, positioning FTX as the safe, responsible exchange. Second, altruism as armor. He pledged to donate the majority of his wealth. He funded pandemic research. He was featured on every magazine cover as the face of crypto done right. Third, social proof engineering. Once Sequoia invested, others followed. Once Tom Brady was in, the narrative became mainstream. Each new name lowered the due diligence threshold for the next investor. But here's the thing, and this is important. There were people who saw through it. Right now, in 2021, at the peak of FTX's power, one small financial blogger was screaming that the numbers didn't add up. Nobody listened. We'll come back to him. While SBF was shaking hands in Washington, FTX was operating a second business that almost no one knew about. Alameda Research, a trading firm SBF had founded before FTX. On paper, the two companies were separate. In practice, they shared the same office, the same bank accounts, and the same money. Here's how it worked. In simple terms, FTX customers deposited real money dollars, Bitcoin, Ethereum. FTX was supposed to hold that money safely just like a bank. Instead, that customer money was secretly transferred to Alameda Research, which used it to make speculative bets. When those bets paid off, Alameda kept the profits. When they didn't, and eventually they didn't, the customer funds were simply gone. The exchange was technically insolvent for months before the public knew, but there's a deeper layer. FTX had created its own token, FTT. And Alameda's balance sheet, its supposed collateral, the thing that made it look financially healthy, was mostly made of FTT, a token that FTX itself had printed. It's like a bank listing its own I owe us as assets. The whole structure was circular. The moment anyone questioned FTT's value, everything would collapse. And in November 2022, someone did. On November 2nd, 2022, CoinDesk published a leaked document, Alameda's balance sheet. For the first time, the public could see what was really there. Mostly FTT tokens, billions of dollars in value, backed by nothing but FTX's own promise. The crypto world noticed. And then Changpeng Zhao CZ, the CEO of Binance, FTX's biggest competitor, made an announcement that lit the fuse. CZ tweeted that Binance would be selling all of its FTT holdings immediately. That single tweet triggered a bank run. Within hours, FTX customers were trying to withdraw $6 billion in a single day. The exchange couldn't process it. Withdrawals were paused. And in that pause, that silence, everyone understood at once that the money was gone. November 8th, withdrawals halted. November 9th, Binance agreed to acquire FTX, then walked away after seeing the books. November 10th, SBF tweeted, "I fucked up," perhaps the most understated admission in financial history. November 11th, FTX filed for bankruptcy. $32 billion in value had been destroyed in 72 hours. SBF resigned, and a new CEO, John Ray III, the man who had cleaned up Enron, took over. His first statement: he had never seen such a complete failure of corporate controls in his entire career. Now, remember the blogger I mentioned? The one screaming that the numbers didn't add up? His name doesn't matter. What matters is that he was right. Nobody listened, and we need to understand exactly why. Psychologists call it social proof bias. When we see respected people doing something, we assume it must be safe. If Sequoia invested, the due diligence must have been done. If Tom Brady is the face of the company, surely someone checked the balance sheet. Nobody had. Everyone was outsourcing their critical thinking to the person next to them, and that person was doing the same. The result was a room full of brilliant people who collectively failed to ask the most basic question: where is the money? There's a second mechanism harder to talk about, but important. SBF's commitment to effective altruism made people uncomfortable asking hard questions. To challenge a man who was pledging to give away billions felt petty, cynical. The altruism wasn't just good PR, it was psychological armor. Anyone who pushed back could be dismissed as someone who didn't understand the bigger mission.